The flight attendant handed me a note from the pilot that said, "Do not get off this plane at our destination. I'll explain when we land." I read it 3 times, certain I was misunderstanding. The flight from Seattle to Denver had been completely normal and uneventful until that exact moment. Smooth air the entire way, mediocre coffee served in tiny cups, a crying baby about 4 rows back that eventually fell asleep. Now I was holding a handwritten note on official cockpit stationery telling me to stay on the plane when everyone else left. I looked up at the flight attendant, but she was already walking away down the aisle, deliberately not making eye contact. She disappeared behind the curtain without turning around. The note was definitely official with the airline's logo at the top. I turned it over looking for additional explanation. Nothing. Just those 2 cryptic sentences. I pulled out my phone to text my wife, but we were still at cruising altitude with no service. The businessman next to me glanced over. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said automatically, folding the note and shoving it into my pocket. But nothing was fine. My mind raced through every possibility. Who sends a note like this? How did the pilot know which passenger I was? What could be waiting in Denver that I needed to avoid? The next hour was torture. I watched the flight attendants obsessively for any sign of what was happening. They seemed completely normal. When the captain announced our descent into Denver, my heart pounded against my ribs. I gripped the armrests until my knuckles went white. The plane touched down and taxied to our gate. The seatbelt sign dinged off. Everyone stood up, grabbing bags and shuffling toward the exit. I stayed seated and didn't move. The plane emptied around me. Parents carrying sleeping children, business travelers checking phones, elderly couples moving slowly. Soon the aircraft was empty, except for me in row 23. A flight attendant approached with her hands on her hips. "Sir, we've arrived. You need to deplane so we can prepare for the next flight." "I'm staying on the plane." Her eyebrows rose. "Sir, that's not an option. Cleaning crew needs to come through." I pulled out the note. The pilot sent me this. She read it, and her expression changed completely. Without a word, she walked to the cockpit and knocked. Muffled voices. She returned. "Please remain seated. The captain will be with you shortly." The other attendants filed off. The cabin lights dimmed. I sat alone in an empty aircraft with no idea what was about to happen, my mind racing through terrible possibilities. Was there a threat waiting for me? Was I a suspect in something? Had something happened to my family? The cockpit door opened. The pilot walked toward me, maybe 60 years old with great temples and a calm, weathered face. He sat across the aisle. "Mr. Brixton, I apologize for the theatrics. I couldn't risk you walking off normally and being intercepted before I could warn you." "Intercepted by who?" He showed me a photo on his phone. 2 men in dark suits at the Denver gate, watching passengers deplane intently. I didn't recognize them. "They've been tracking your flight since Seattle." My blood went cold. "How do you know this?" "Before I became a commercial pilot, I worked as a federal air marshal. I still have contacts in certain agencies. One called mid-flight to warn me these men plan to detain you the moment you enter that terminal." "Detain me for what?" "I'm an accountant." He leaned forward. "It's not about what you did. It's about what you witnessed. 3 weeks ago in Seattle, the parking garage on 5th Street. You were there around 11 at night." My heart stopped. 3 weeks ago, I saw 2 men dragging a struggling woman into a black van. She was screaming for help. I called 911 and gave detailed descriptions. Police never showed. I assumed it was handled. "That woman was the wife of a state senator," the pilot said quietly. "Those men worked for a private security contractor with deep federal connections. Your 911 call created a paper trail leading to you. Now you're a loose end." I couldn't breathe. "What am I supposed to do?" "Walk off with me through the service exit. A car is waiting on the tarmac. Your wife has been relocated to a secure location. You won't be going home for a while." I stared at him. Why risk everything to help me? "You don't know me." He stood and straightened his jacket. "Because 30 years ago, when I witnessed something I shouldn't have, someone took an enormous risk to help me escape. I survived because a stranger decided my life mattered. You did the right thing that night. You tried to save that woman when everyone else would have looked away. That courage should mean something." I followed him through the galley to the rear service door, my legs shaking with every step. The last thing I saw before stepping out into a world I no longer recognized was Denver's terminal through a tiny window. Those 2 men in suits still waiting patiently at the gate for a passenger who would never arrive.